Hello, my name is Maria Ellie Marquez Moraine, and I will be presenting over the economic impact of the Pebble mine here in Alaska. This is actually a quite new area. I did read the 2013 report, and this is where the chart comes from. The Pebble Mining has conducted a report to put together on what they estimated would be the economic contribution that they would provide here in Alaska. As you can tell, each of these numbers are actually very positive. Having 2,750 jobs created here in Alaska would impact 2,750 families. So the numbers that you see on here is directly from the report. None of the federal and government revenue, however, is very accurate, I want to say. It just depends on the price of the mineral that they are extracting. So that could also fluctuate. For their qualitative economic impact is one that I actually wanted to highlight in that report. Scrolling through the table of contents, there's not much done on what their environmental impact analysis would be and how it ties into their economic impact as well. So what I gathered and read from the report, I actually wanted to highlight some of the important aspects. Um, Due to the time frame, they actually wanted to state that they didn't go conduct a very thorough um, report on what the individuals, like in that villages, would see as economically beneficial of that mine. However, they did state the regular ideas that there would be employment, um, tax tax monies going into education and healthcare. So health services. All of that would also have an increase in goods coming in for the boon in that community. They also spoke with some of the business owners. However, they didn't really have the data to back it up, but they did state that with an increase in jobs, people would be benefiting, business owners would be benefiting with that. Another thing, the second part was the demographic profile. So where the Pebble mining would be here in Alaska, it would actually be around 5 villages that would benefit directly from this mining. However, in their report, they actually did highlight that the land is under native sovereignty and it is of their what they wanted to use it as. And it was just one single line, but that's very important to highlight that they acknowledge that the land is pretty much guided under what benefits these villages. And they also wrote the one single line where residents rely heavily on subsistence activities. And then nowhere else does it mention any environmental impact analysis to be conducted on the subsistence activities, either increasing or decreasing surrounding pebble mining. I'll show you a picture closer to the end of where the mining would be located at. But continuing on with this demographic profile, they wanted to highlight that around 48% of these villages, households, are living below poverty levels. And I really felt that they didn't really highlight positive aspects of these villages. I think they really wanted to highlight the struggle and economic benefits for having a pebble mining in there. It is interesting to note that they didn't mention, even though they are below the poverty level, as we have learned in class, a lot of times those indicators are not true. Food insecurity was not mentioned to be a part of this poverty level, and I would believe it is due to those subsistence activities that the villagers conduct. So one of the letters that was actually sent from environmental um, surveyor, he was from Salt Lake, Utah, and he actually sent it to the U.S. Corps of Engineers to highlight what he felt would be negative in having pebble mining come in. Um, he expressed concern with environmental impact studies not being true, and this was due to his years of experience and how mining would pretty much look for the better number of the two. If this pebble mining went forward, it would only be a small percentage that they would estimate as environmental impact. So, for example, they would put the lower of the two numbers in order to make it seem reasonable, and that there was a concern with um, mining sludge from the pebble mining. Um, with some of the surveyed areas, both here in US and Canada, water treatment for the sludge to be taken out of the um, impacted areas would be very high. So this was important to note, as even though you are creating those economic revenues with stripping the land of mine, you also have waste. So the cost of the waste cleanup or disposal of would be very high. So the red highlighted areas is where they would estimate the um, threat would, excuse me, the mining would be taken part of, and then the yellow is where they estimate the negative impact of this mining would take place. Um, and as I mentioned before, the area where they are is surrounded by bodies of water. You have the sea, the Bristol Bay, you have lakes, you have Cook Inlet, which is really famous to travel and see wildlife pretty much right there. And then you have these little rivers. And so it is interesting to note just how much area that they are going to impact is much larger than just one section of where the mine is going to be. It'll actually spread out. So the Arctic Institute study actually conducted a report that they mentioned that there would be close to 10 billion tons of toxic tailings. And again, as I mentioned, that's the waste that the mine would produce. And they estimated that in order to store this, it would be 700 feet tall. So it's close to an Empire State Building, holding back all this waste. And they estimated that because we have climate changes and the permafrost melting, that there'd be a chance that these porous land would actually release in, I guess, in a way, it would start dirtying up the soil and water surrounding whatever is holding this waste. They also mentioned that salmon, the ecosystem for them would be disrupted. So, native Alaskan fishermen, hunters, and anglers actually see the Pebble Mine project as being negative towards um, the environment that the fish they are fishing is in, as well as the toxic waste that it will introduce into the land is not really beneficial at all. And so, what I concluded from all the reports and letters and concern was, even though there is an economic advantage to pebble mining, there's also a severe disservice to the villagers that rely on food subsistence. They rely also on a healthy land use. And as you could see, the map that highlighted where the impact would be, it's much bigger than just one small location. It would actually impact a good section of the body surrounding those bodies of water. And in the end, you have to realize that the economic benefit is short term versus the long term of having to clean up and trying to reintroduce wildlife back into those areas. So thank you very much for listening to my um, presentation.